A warm welcome to all our viewers. I'm your host Pratiksha Mishra and you're watching another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show. From Southeast Asia to the Western Indian Ocean, India's diplomacy is in overdrive. PM Modi's Malaysia visit, followed by high-level talks with Seychelles in New Delhi, signals a bold expansion of India's strategic footprint. From defense and maritime security to tech and economic partnerships, New Delhi is strengthening ties across the Indo Pacific and Africa, shaping the future, not just reacting to it.
India-Malaysia ties are powered by robust trade, defense cooperation, deep cultural links and growing collaboration in technology, connectivity and Indo-Pacific maritime security. To deepen this momentum, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Kuala Lumpur for delegation-level talks with Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim. His first visit since relations were elevated to a comprehensive strategic partnership in 2024. 11 key agreements were exchanged, covering counter-terrorism, intelligence sharing, maritime security, semiconductors, healthcare and vocational training, with security cooperation anchoring the discussions. India also positioned itself as a technology and innovation leader, expanding collaboration in artificial intelligence and semiconductor manufacturing.
आज एग्रीकल्चर और मैन्युफैक्चरिंग जैसे क्लीन एनर्जी और सेमीकंडक्टर तक हर क्षेत्र में हमारा सहयोग गहरा रहा है। स्किल डेवलपमेंट और कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग में भी हम अहम साझेदार हैं। हमारा रक्षा और सुरक्षा सहयोग भी लगातार मजबूत हो रहा है।
With bilateral trade approaching $19 billion, Malaysia also underscored India's growing economic clout, reinforcing the partnership's strong commercial momentum.
India is growing by leaps and bounds. It's one spectacular rise in the international economic and trade scene, and therefore Malaysia, in the ASEAN context, would certainly benefit immensely if we could secure more ways and opportunities to collaborate with India, to extending beyond the $18.59 billion that we achieved in 2025.
Even as India strengthened its ASEAN outreach, New Delhi welcomed Seychelles President Patrick Hermini for key bilateral talks. The strategically located Indian Ocean archipelago, Africa's wealthiest nation per capita, reaffirmed its support for India's Mahasagar vision. Mutual and holistic advancement for security and growth across regions. Prime Minister Modi also unveiled a major economic commitment, signaling deeper strategic and development ties in the Indian Ocean.
आज हम $175 मिलियन के स्पेशल इकोनॉमिक पैकेज की घोषणा करने जा रहे हैं। यह पैकेज सोशल हाउसिंग, ई मोबिलिटी, वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग, स्वास्थ्य, रक्षा और मैरीटाइम सिक्योरिटी जैसे क्षेत्रों में ठोस परियोजनाओं को सपोर्ट देगा। इन पहलों से सेशेल्स के लोगों, विशेषकर युवाओं के लिए रोजगार और कौशल के नए अवसर सृजित होंगे।
For India, Seychelles is a vital partner in securing sea lanes, countering piracy and strengthening maritime awareness in Western Indian Ocean. President Hermini highlighted the enduring depth of the partnership.
Particularly as this year marks a significant milestone in our relations. In June, Seychelles and India would commemorate the Golden Jubilee of its diplomatic relations, coinciding with Seychelles' 50th anniversary of independence, to which Mr. Modi, you've been invited as a guest of honor.
From semiconductor collaboration in Malaysia to maritime capacity building in Seychelles, India is emerging not just as a regional power but as a decisive Indo-Pacific force with growing cross-continental influence.
India and the United States are moving toward a stronger trade partnership with a revised interim agreement that expands market access and tariff cooperation. New tariff adjustments and intentions to boost purchases of US goods signal rising economic engagement, reflecting growing trust and deeper bilateral economic ties between the two largest democracies.
In a landmark move to boost economic ties, India and the United States have agreed on a trade deal to deepen strategic and commercial engagement. Under this agreement, US tariffs on Indian exports will drop from around 50% to 18%, easing duties that had impacted Indian industries. Labor-intensive sectors like textiles, apparel, gems, jewelry, leather and footwear stand to gain significantly, expanding India's presence in the US market. Our colleague Smita Prakash spoke with India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal to uncover the diplomacy behind the deal and its benefits for India.
You're terming this as a win-win deal for India and the US. The contours, you've discussed it in various interviews and in the media briefing that you had. I want to ask you that just break down the last 48 hours before this interim deal happened. What was going on in those last 48 hours?
The US is a country which has very deep strategic interests for India, as do we for the US. Our partnership encompasses much more than trade. We have a strong defense partnership. We are members of 2 Quads. Both of us share interests in critical minerals, in the partnership on technology. So for us, this is a trade agreement which will further cement the US-India long-term strategic goals.
Like on February 2nd, President Trump calls Prime Minister Modi and he talks about this. And then there is Ambassador Sergio Gore. Did he, in any way, his conversation with President Trump, did it turbocharge the talks in any manner?
He did play a very important role in concluding the conversation towards finalization and announcement. And I would like to recognize and respect his contribution.
If there is a lack of bilateral consensus on Russian oil or on defense matters, doesn't that impact in any way, doesn't that impact in a great way on the trade deal too?
No, not at all. Trade deal doesn't discuss who will buy what and from where. The trade deal ensures that the pathway to trade is smooth, ensures preferential access. Trade FTAs are all about preferential access to your competition. So today when we've got an 18% reciprocal tariff, we have a preference over other developing nations who are usually our competition.
The allegation is that you have ceded India's sovereignty. What is your response to this?
This trade deal is truly a labor of love. It's come out of intense negotiations on both sides in the best interests of our country's stated goal to become a developed and prosperous country by 2047, Viksit Bharat 2047, and will provide immense opportunities for our youth, our sisters, our women, prevent huge opportunities for our farmers and fishermen. Our MSMEs will flourish. They'll become the provider of a lot of material that is required by the United States of America. Our textile sector, our footwear and leather sector, our toy sector, handloom, handicraft, auto components, furniture, sky's the limit.
It's interesting that you say that, one shouldn't have haste in signing these deals, but many say that it's the weaponization of the tariff regime which Donald Trump did, which led to Europe and the others for the haste in which they signed with India?
I think it's nothing to do with one relationship, has nothing to do with another situation. Every trade deal stands on its own legs, and we've right since December 2024 until we close on 27th January 2026. It's been a labor of love, work with a lot of passion, work with a collective effort of both sides, and 27 governments on that side, the whole of the government in India, working towards a fair and very, very balanced agreement between both geographies.
On that note, thank you very much, sir, for giving us the time.
Thank you.
Time now for Asia This Week, the stories from across the continent.
Cricket fans across Pakistan are eagerly anticipating the high-voltage T20 World Cup clash against India in Sri Lanka after the government reversed its earlier boycott linked to geopolitical tensions. Supporters in cities like Lahore and Karachi welcomed the decision, calling the Pakistan-India match the heart of any World Cup. The turnaround followed appeals from cricket authorities including the Bangladesh Cricket Board during discussions with the ICC and the PCB. Pakistan had initially withdrawn after the ICC replaced Bangladesh with Scotland when Bangladesh declined to travel to co-host India. The ICC later clarified that Bangladesh would not face penalties and would host a future ICC event. The February 15 match has reignited excitement, unity and national pride across Pakistan as India aims to defend their T20 title. Menswear brand Public School returned to New York Fashion Week after a 7-year break. Unveiling its new collection, Everything Is Now on February 11. Designers Dao Yi Chao and Maxwell Osborne said the comeback was driven by urgency and the belief that the present moment must be seized. The show drew a packed audience, including celebrities like singer Monica and Olympic gymnast Sunisa Lee. The collection stayed true to the brand's structured yet effortless aesthetic, featuring fabrics sourced from New York, Italy and Japan. Landscape prints were paired with heavy leather, while denim played a central role across suiting, evening and day wear. The return also marked Public School's first collaboration with tech company SAP, integrating AI tools for retail and styling, not design. Taiwan's Defense Minister Wellington Koo has warned that delays in approving a proposed $40 billion special military budget could cause a rupture in Taiwan's joint defense posture against China. President Lai Ching-te urged the opposition-controlled parliament to pass the measure, saying it reflects Taiwan's resolve to protect its way of life. Proposed last year, the defense boost aims to counter growing Chinese military pressure, but opposition parties have stalled the review and pushed cheaper alternatives that fund only some US weapons. Koo said the government has held intensive consultations with the United States on Taiwan's defense needs. Lai stressed that strengthening defense is not about aggression, but about safeguarding democracy and fulfilling international responsibilities amid an increasingly serious Chinese threat.
Bangladesh's garment industry is welcoming relief after the United States reduced tariffs under a new trade deal, easing pressure on exporters reliant on American market. Factory owners say the 1% cut, along with exemptions for US-sourced materials, could boost competitiveness and protect jobs. Still, industry leaders urge caution, calling for better planning, stronger supply chains, and continued reforms to sustain growth in an increasingly competitive global landscape ahead today.
Bangladesh's crucial ready-made garments industry has welcomed the decision by the United States to reduce tariffs under a newly negotiated bilateral trade agreement, offering much-needed relief to exporters and manufacturers who depend heavily on the American market. In a significant development aimed at strengthening trade ties, the US has agreed to cut tariffs on Bangladeshi apparel imports by 1 percentage point, bringing the rate down to 19% from the 20% imposed earlier during the Trump administration in August. The agreement grants exemptions for certain textiles and garments made with US-sourced materials, a step industry leaders say will strengthen bilateral supply chains. The move offers relief to garment exporters in Bangladesh grappling with rising costs, tough global competition, and economic uncertainty, with even small tariff cuts expected to improve competitiveness and protect market share. Garment factory owner and director of Bangladesh Garment Manufacturers and Exporters Association, Moyuddin Rubal, welcomed the move but urged the industry to stay cautious and plan for the future.
This will be really a good advantage if we can do it in practically. So there are some challenges as well to implement it, but the bottom line is this is a good advantage if we can take it. Because for example, just an example, like if you are reducing your reciprocal tariff by 1%, is 1%. But if you can make your product with that cotton from USA, you can reduce by 19%. Of course, this will be a big impact in practical if we can implement it.
Despite the tariff relief, Bangladesh's rates remain marginally higher than that of neighboring India, whose imports into the US are set to face an 18% tariff under a separate agreement reached last week. However, officials know that India deal is still subjected to further negotiations before it is finalized. The ready-made garments industry continues to serve as the backbone of Bangladesh's economy. The sector contributes over 80% of the country's total export earnings and provides employment to nearly 4 million workers, most of whom are women. It also accounts for roughly 10% of the nation's gross domestic product, making it one of the most critical pillars of economic growth and stability.
Every reduction will be an added advantage for our competition. But of course, if it was like 2% to 5%, it would help more. But even in 1%, like after the reduction of 1%, now we are to the level of all of our competitors except India only, who is basically getting 18%. But still, the 1% reduction will help.
The trade development also came at a politically sensitive time for Bangladesh. The country went to the polls on Thursday, February 12, to elect new leadership. Bangladesh had been under an interim administration since August 2024, when former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina left the country and sought refuge in India, where she continued to stay. While challenges remain, the agreement is being viewed as a step forward in reinforcing trade relations and supporting one of the nation's most vital industries.
Spending hours scrolling through reels and shorts is no longer just a way to pass time. It has become a powerful digital movement. Behind every short video is the force of the orange economy, driven by Gen Z, a generation that does not just consume content but creates it. With AI tools at their fingertips, young Indians are turning creativity into careers, transforming ideas into income and global recognition. Meet Sandeep and Abhijit, content creators from New Delhi who are redefining music and digital content in the age of artificial intelligence. Working together as a creative duo, they use AI tools to compose music, design visuals, and produce innovative digital content that pushes traditional boundaries. In a landmark moment for India's creative and technology landscape, the duo has introduced Maya, India's first AI-generated singer. By blending music, storytelling, and cutting-edge generative artificial intelligence, they have opened a new chapter in how music can be imagined, produced, and experienced.
When I created India's first AI singer, that entire process was AI generated, and that helped me a lot, because if AI wasn't in the picture, it would have been kind of impossible for me to do this in the first place, because you need a crew, you need an actor, you need a singer, so many things to be together for a music video to be done. But all of that is now okay with generative AI. So people who have an idea in mind, it's extremely easy for them to convert that into reality with the help of Gen AI. It's the role that is changing. It's not exactly like the jobs are going to get reduced. Maybe in one aspect it may get reduced, but in another aspect it may grow.
Beyond music, Sandeep and Abhijit are active content creators managing 2 to 3 social media channels that allow ideas to move swiftly from concept to creation. They also believe that generative AI will give a significant boost to the country's orange economy, creating diverse opportunities for employment.
आप जैसे डालोगे यूट्यूब पे वीडियोस डालोगे, इंस्टाग्राम पे वीडियोस डालोगे, तो आप कंटेंट जो एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेट कर रहे हो, तो आप एक अगर आप आपका मनी सोर्स है, आप उधर से इनकम आप जनरेट करना स्टार्ट कर दिया, तो आपके एम्प्लॉयमेंट वैसे ही आ गई है। फिर आपको उसको कंटिन्यू रखना पड़ेगा, तो उसको कंटिन्यू रख के आप उसको फिर एक अच्छा सोर्स बना सकते हैं उसको एम्प्लॉयमेंट का। और उसके लिए अब जो कंटिन्यूएशन जो मतलब था कि पहले बहुत एफर्ट्स लगाने पड़ते थे एक वीडियो बनाने के लिए, वो एफर्ट्स अब कम हो रहे हैं धीरे-धीरे विद जेनी एंड ऑल दैट स्टफ। सो आप अब मतलब वो एफर्ट्स कम लगा के वो सेम अमाउंट ऑफ प्रोडक्शन की वीडियो बना सकते हैं।
Today, millions of young people on social media are not just creating content, they are building careers and driving a new creative economy. The creator ecosystem already generates nearly 2 lakh crore rupees in revenue, and that figure is projected to rise to 8 to 10 lakh crore rupees by 2030. Creativity is no longer a hobby, it is a serious economic force. Recognizing this potential, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has announced plans for a digital creator lab to support and skill young creators. Through platforms like Creator Conclave, established creators are mentoring emerging talent, unlocking new avenues for networking and growth. This wave of the orange economy underscores a powerful truth. Creativity is the new capital, where every smartphone is a studio and every idea holds the potential to become an opportunity. In today's digital India, creativity is no longer just passion, it's powerful opportunity. And with that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Till then, goodbye and take care.